You want to know what it's like to be the guy everyone calls a homewrecker? Let me tell you a story about how I went from living my best life to getting financially destroyed by a warehouse supervisor who turned out to be way smarter than I gave him credit for. My name is Corey Hudson. I'm 32, and until recently I thought I had the world figured out. Personal trainer at Platinum Fitness in downtown Tampa, pulling in about 75 grand a year between my gym salary and private clients. Nice apartment at Harbor View, leased BMW, ABS that could stop traffic. I was living the dream, or so I thought. The dream included Diana Matthews, a 41-year-old married woman who walked into my life 18 months ago and turned everything upside down. Now, before you start judging, let me paint the picture of how this all started. It wasn't some predatory scheme. At least, that's not how it felt at the time. I was grabbing my usual Saturday morning coffee at Brewhaven, this little place near my apartment that makes killer espresso drinks. I'm sitting there scrolling through Instagram, probably posting some motivational fitness quote, when this woman walks in. Brunette, clearly took care of herself, but with that slightly frazzled look that screams suburban mom trying to reclaim her identity. She ordered some complicated latte with extra shots and oat milk, kept checking her phone like she was running late for something. When she turned around looking for a table, we made eye contact. I smiled, she smiled back, and something just clicked. Call it chemistry, call it stupidity. Either way, it was immediate. "Rough morning?" I asked when she sat at the table next to mine. "You could say that." She laughed, but it sounded tired. "I'm supposed to be at a yoga class, but I just couldn't face it today." That should have been my first red flag. A woman skipping commitments to sit in a coffee shop with a stranger, but I was 32. Single, and honestly, I liked the attention from someone who wasn't a 20-something gym bunny throwing herself at me because I could bench press twice her body weight. We talked for 2 hours. Diana told me about her life in the suburbs, her 2 kids, her job at some law firm. She was careful not to mention her husband much, which should have been red flag number 2. But she was smart, funny, and there was something magnetic about a woman who clearly needed someone to remind her she was still desirable. When she mentioned she'd been thinking about getting a personal trainer, I saw my opening. "I could help with that," I said. "I specialize in helping people get back in touch with their fitness goals." Looking back, that line makes me want to punch myself in the face. She lit up like I'd offered her $1 million. Really? I've been so self-conscious about getting back into shape after having kids. The way she said it, with this mix of vulnerability and hope, hooked me completely. We exchanged numbers. She said she'd think about training sessions. I figured it was a polite brush-off. But the next Saturday morning, there she was at Brewhaven again. Same time, same frazzled energy, same story about skipping yoga. That became our routine. Every Saturday morning, Diana would text me that she was running late for yoga and somehow always ended up at our coffee shop instead. We'd talk for hours about everything except the obvious elephant in the room, that she was married and I was actively pursuing her. After 3 weeks of coffee shop conversations, she asked if I wanted to continue our training consultation at my apartment. Said the gym environment intimidated her, and she'd be more comfortable discussing her fitness goals somewhere private. I should have said no. Should have recognized that crossing that line meant crossing into territory that could blow up spectacularly. But I was 32 years old, egotistical as hell, and convinced that I was just helping a lonely woman rediscover her confidence. The first time Diana came to my apartment, we didn't even pretend it was about fitness. She walked through my door, looked around at my carefully curated bachelor pad, and said, "This is exactly what I imagined your place would look like." Then she kissed me. 18 months. That's how long our Saturday morning routine lasted. Every week, Diana would tell her husband she was going to personal training sessions, drive to my apartment instead, and spend 3 hours forgetting she was a suburban mom with responsibilities. I told myself I was providing a service, giving her an escape from a life that clearly wasn't fulfilling her. The sex was incredible, but that wasn't really what hooked me. It was the way she looked at me like I was saving her from something, like I was this exciting rebellion against her predictable life. I became addicted to being her secret, her adventure, her reminder that she was still a woman worth wanting. She'd arrive at 8:30 sharp every Saturday, usually wearing yoga pants and a sports bra under a zip-up jacket. maintaining the illusion that she was actually going to work out. She'd stay until 10:30, then drive home to her husband and kids with this glow that I told myself came from feeling alive again. I knew she was married, I knew she had children, but I convinced myself that what we had wasn't really hurting anyone. Her husband didn't know, so he couldn't be hurt. Her kids weren't affected because they thought mom was just getting healthy. And Diana, she was happier than she'd been in years. That's the story I told myself every Saturday morning for 18 months. I was the good guy in this scenario, helping a woman remember her own worth. Her marriage was already dead. I was just providing CPR for her sense of self. Man, was I an idiot. The reality check came on a muggy Saturday morning in July. Diana and I had just finished what we laughingly called our workout session, and she was getting dressed to head home. I was making coffee, feeling particularly satisfied with myself and my life choices, when she mentioned something that should have terrified me. "Aaron's been asking more questions about my training lately," she said, pulling on that ridiculous sports bra that was supposed to sell the fitness story. "He wants to know why I never seem to be getting any stronger if I'm working out so consistently." I laughed. Actually laughed. "What did you tell him?" "That you're focusing on flexibility and core strength rather than building visible muscle." She was completely serious, like she'd rehearsed this explanation. He seemed to buy it. That's when it hit me. Diana had become an expert at lying to her husband, not just little white lies or omissions, but elaborate, detailed fabrications that she delivered with zero hesitation. If she could lie that easily to a man she'd been married to for 14 years, what did that say about her character? And more importantly, what did it say about mine that I was helping her do it? But I pushed that thought away. I was 32, in the best shape of my life, pulling decent money, and having mind-blowing sex with a gorgeous older woman every Saturday morning. Why rock the boat? The boat rocked itself 3 weeks later. I was at Platinum Fitness on a Tuesday afternoon, training one of my regular clients, a corporate executive who paid me $200 an hour to help him pretend he could still bench press like he did in college. We were between sets when the front desk girl, Sarah, approached me with this confused expression. "Hey Corey, weird question," she said. "Some guy came in Saturday asking about you. Said his wife Diana trains with you. Wanted to know about joining as a couples package." The blood in my veins turned to ice water. "What did you tell him?" "Well, that's the weird part. I told him, 'You don't work Saturdays,' and he seemed really confused. He asked me to check our system for a Diana Matthews, but we don't have anyone by that name registered here. I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost because my client asked if I was all right. I mumbled something about low blood sugar and excused myself to the bathroom, where I immediately called Diana. "We have a problem," I said when she answered. "Your husband came to Platinum looking for you." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. Finally, Diana spoke in this tiny voice. "He what?" "He told them his wife Diana trains with me. Asked about couples memberships. Sarah told him I don't work weekends and that you're not in our system." More silence. Then, oh God, Corey, what are we going to do?" What were we going to do? That's when it really hit me that there was no we in this situation. I was the single guy who could walk away from this mess. She was the one with a marriage, kids, and a whole life that was about to implode. "I don't know, Diana. What did you tell him about where you go on Saturdays?" "Elite Fitness," she said miserably. "I told him I train at Elite Fitness." At least she'd been smart enough to use a real gym, just not the one where I worked. So maybe he just got confused about which gym. Maybe, "Corey, he's not stupid. If he went looking for me, it's because he already suspects something." She was right. Aaron Matthews might have been just a warehouse supervisor, but you don't stay married to someone for 14 years without developing pretty good instincts about their behavior patterns. We agreed that Diana should go home and act normal, see if Aaron brought up the gym visit. If he confronted her, she'd claim she must have mentioned the wrong gym name by mistake. Weak story, but it was all we had. That evening, Diana texted me. "He didn't say anything, acting normal. Maybe we're okay?" We weren't okay. Over the next 2 weeks, Diana became increasingly paranoid. She started noticing things she'd never paid attention to before. How Aaron watched her when she left on Saturday mornings. How he asked casual questions about her workouts. How he seemed to be studying her phone when she thought he wasn't looking. "I think he's suspicious," she told me, during one of our coffee shop conversations. We'd started meeting at Brewhaven again, instead of going straight to my apartment, like somehow being in public would make everything more innocent. "So end it," I said. The words came out before I could stop them, and they surprised me as much as they surprised her. Diana stared at me like I'd slapped her. "End what?" "This, us, the whole thing. Go back to your actual marriage before you destroy it completely." I meant it. For maybe the first time in 18 months, I was thinking clearly instead of just reacting to how good she made me feel. Diana was going to get caught. Her husband was already suspicious, and it was only a matter of time before he found concrete proof. When that happened, I was going to be collateral damage in the explosion of her marriage. But Diana shook her head. "I can't. Corey, you don't understand. You've saved me. Before you, I was just going through the motions of my life. You make me feel alive again." That should have been flattering. Instead, it was terrifying, because I realized that Diana wasn't just having an affair. She was using me as an escape from taking responsibility for her own unhappiness, and I'd been so flattered by being needed that I'd let myself become complicit in the destruction of a family. 3 weeks after Aaron's visit to Platinum Fitness, the other shoe dropped. Diana called me on a Thursday evening, which was unusual. We typically only communicated on Saturdays, or through carefully timed text messages. Her voice was shaking. "Corey, I think someone's been following me." "What do you mean?" "This morning, when I left for work, I noticed a gray sedan behind me. Same car was parked across the street from the law firm when I went to lunch. Then it followed me to the grocery store after work." My mouth went dry. "Are you sure it was the same car?" I wrote down the license plate. Same car, same driver. Middle-aged white guy, kind of stocky. She paused. "What if Aaron hired someone to follow me?" That's when I knew we were screwed. Aaron Matthews might have been just a warehouse supervisor, but he was apparently smart enough to hire a professional when his wife's behavior stopped making sense. And if he was having Diana followed, it was only a matter of time before that investigator connected her Saturday yoga sessions to my Harborview apartment. "Diana, you need to stop coming here. Cancel Saturday. Tell him you're sick or the trainer is out of town or something." "I can't just stop. If I change my routine now, right? After he started watching me, it'll look even more suspicious." She had a point, but I was starting to panic. "So, what do you want to do?" "Act normal. Keep to our usual schedule. Maybe whoever's following me will get bored and give up." That was wishful thinking, and we both knew it. Private investigators don't get bored. They get paid to document evidence until their clients are satisfied. And Aaron clearly wasn't going to be satisfied until he knew exactly what Diana was doing every Saturday morning. That Saturday, Diana showed up at my apartment right on schedule, but everything felt different. She kept glancing out the window, jumping at every sound in the hallway. We tried to go through our usual routine, but both of us were too distracted to enjoy it. "I saw him again," she said as she was getting dressed to leave. "The investigator. He's parked at the entrance to the complex." I looked out my living room window, and sure enough, there was a gray sedan, positioned where the driver could photograph anyone entering or leaving Harborview. The guy was good. Professional distance, clear line of sight, probably had a telephoto lens that could capture Diana's license plate and facial features. "This is it," I said. "He's got everything he needs now. Photos of you coming here, timestamps proving you're lying about yoga, probably background information on me." Diana started crying, which surprised me. In 18 months of Saturday mornings, I'd seen her frustrated, stressed, even angry, but never truly broken down. "What am I going to do? Aaron's going to divorce me. I'll lose my kids, lose the house, lose everything." For the first time, I felt genuinely guilty about what we'd been doing, not just because we were about to get caught, but because I was finally seeing the real consequences of our choices. Diana wasn't just cheating on her husband. She was risking her relationship with her children, her financial security, her entire life. "Maybe you can fix this," I said, though I didn't believe it. "Go home, confess everything, beg for forgiveness. Tell him it was a mistake, that you'll do anything to save your marriage." She looked at me like I was insane. "Corey, I've been lying to him for 18 months. 78 times I've kissed him goodbye and driven straight to another man's bed. How do you ask someone to forgive that?" She was right. There are some betrayals that are too big to come back from, and systematically deceiving someone for 18 months while maintaining the facade of a loving marriage was definitely in that category. The confrontation happened the following Tuesday. Diana called me from her car, sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. He knows. Aaron knows everything. He had photos, Corey. Photos of me going into your apartment. Photos of us kissing. Timestamps showing exactly when I arrived and when I left. My stomach dropped into my shoes. What? Did you tell him? The truth. What else could I say? He had evidence of everything. She took a shaky breath. He told me to pack a bag and get out. Said I should go stay with you since I'd been spending so much time at your place anyway. That line stung because it was true. I had been complicit in the destruction of her marriage, and now her husband was making it clear that I owned part of the consequences. Where are you now? My friend Jessica's house. I can't go back there, Corey. He won't even look at me. I felt this weird mix of guilt and relief. Guilt because I genuinely cared about Diana and hated seeing her in pain. Relief because this nightmare was finally coming to an end, and I could go back to my uncomplicated bachelor life. What happens now? I asked. He's filing for divorce. And Corey, her voice got very small, he's also filing some kind of lawsuit against you. The relief evaporated instantly. What kind of lawsuit? Something about alienation of affection. His lawyer says North Carolina has laws that let you sue someone for destroying a marriage. They're asking for $400,000. $400,000. I started laughing, which was probably not the appropriate response, but the absurdity of it hit me all at once. Aaron Matthews, warehouse supervisor, was about to financially destroy a fitness trainer who made $75,000 a year. The man I'd been mentally dismissing as some suburban drone had just checkmate me in a game I didn't even realize we were playing. Corey, are you there? Yeah, I'm here. I'm just processing. The lawsuit papers arrived at Platinum Fitness on a Wednesday afternoon, delivered by a guy who looked like he'd served papers to cheating boyfriends 1,000 times before. He walked right up to the front desk, asked for Corey Hudson, and handed me a thick manila envelope while half the gym watched. You've been served, he said, with the kind of professional indifference that told me this was just another Tuesday for him. Then he left, and I was standing there holding legal documents that were about to ruin my life. I opened the envelope right there in the gym because I'm apparently an idiot who enjoys public humiliation. The first page made everything crystal clear. Aaron Matthews versus Corey Hudson, seeking damages for alienation of affection and criminal conversation in the amount of $400,000. $400,000. For context, that was more than 5 years of my salary. More than twice what I had in savings, retirement accounts, and equity in my BMW combined. Aaron Matthews was essentially asking for my financial soul, and according to the legal documents, he had every right to it. Sarah from the front desk approached me cautiously. Everything okay, Corey? I looked around the gym, my workplace, the foundation of my career and identity, and realized that everyone was staring. Personal trainers, clients, management, all wondering what kind of legal trouble their colleague had gotten himself into. I need to make some phone calls, I said, and walked to the parking lot where I could have a complete breakdown in private. I called my insurance agent first, hoping my renter's policy might cover legal fees. No such luck. Then I called the only attorney I knew, a guy named Rob, who'd handled my lease agreement when I moved to Harborview. He agreed to meet me that evening to review the paperwork. Rob's office was in one of those strip mall legal practices that cater to people who can't afford the downtown law firms. When I explained the situation, he got this expression that lawyers probably learn in school. The look that says, "You're completely screwed, but I'll take your money to tell you so professionally." "Mr. Hudson," he said after reviewing the documents, "I have to ask, did you know Diana Matthews was married when you began your relationship?" "Yes." "And did you continue the relationship after learning she was married?" "Yes." "For 18 months?" "Yes." Rob set down the papers and looked at me with something approaching pity. Then, "Mr. Matthews has an exceptionally strong case. North Carolina's alienation of affection laws are very clear, and the evidence he's provided is thorough. Professional surveillance photos, time-stamped documentation, even your own workplace confirming that you don't work Saturdays." I felt like I was drowning. What kind of settlement are we looking at? Well, Mr. Matthews is asking for $400,000, but that's clearly a negotiating position. However, given the strength of his case and the duration of the affair, I'd estimate you're looking at somewhere between $30,000 and $60,000 in actual damages. 30 to 60,000. Still devastating, but not completely life-ending. And if I fight it, legal fees. A loan would probably run you 25 to 40,000, with no guarantee of winning. And if you lose at trial, you could end up paying the full amount plus his attorney fees. Rob leaned back in his chair. My professional recommendation is to settle quickly and quietly. That's when the reality of my situation fully hit me. Aaron Matthews hadn't just caught his cheating wife. He'd systematically destroyed the man she'd been cheating with. The private investigator, the documentation, the strategic use of North Carolina law instead of Florida law, where we actually lived. This wasn't revenge driven by emotion. This was calculated financial warfare. The man I'd been dismissing as some suburban nobody had played chess while I was playing checkers, and he'd just put me in checkmate. Over the next 2 weeks, Rob negotiated with Aaron's attorney while I tried to figure out how to come up with $35,000 without declaring bankruptcy. I borrowed against my 401k, took a personal loan, and called my parents to ask for money for the first time since college. The worst part wasn't the financial hit. It was the humiliation. Word spread through Tampa's fitness community faster than a steroid scandal. I was the trainer who'd gotten sued for sleeping with a client's wife. Platinum Fitness mutually agreed that I should seek employment elsewhere to avoid any negative publicity for the gym. Diana stopped contacting me entirely after the first week. I found out through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved into a small condo downtown and was trying to negotiate custody arrangements for her kids. Apparently, Aaron was willing to share custody, but absolutely refused any possibility of reconciliation. Smart man? If your wife can lie to your face for 18 months while carrying on a systematic affair, what's left to reconcile? The settlement was finalized on a Friday afternoon in Rob's strip mall office. $35,000, plus an agreement that I would seek employment outside the Tampa Bay area. Aaron's attorney had included that clause to ensure Diana and I couldn't continue our relationship after the dust settled. As I signed the papers, Rob mentioned something interesting. "Your case has gotten some attention in legal circles," he said. "It's unusual to see alienation of affection laws used so effectively in Florida." "What do you mean?" "Well, most people don't realize that North Carolina law can apply to residents who've moved to other states." Mr. Matthews' attorney was very clever to pursue this angle. He shrugged. "Your situation is probably going to be used as a case study for how to handle extramarital affairs legally." Perfect. I wasn't just getting financially destroyed. I was becoming a cautionary tale for law students. 6 months later, I was living in Jacksonville, working at a corporate fitness chain for 20% less money than I'd made in Tampa, and slowly rebuilding my financial life. The $35,000 settlement had wiped out my savings and forced me to trade my BMW for a used Honda Civic, but I was surviving. Diana had stopped reaching out completely after the settlement was finalized. I heard through the grapevine that Aaron had refused any reconciliation attempts and pushed through with the divorce. She'd gotten 50-50 custody of the kids and moved into a modest condo, while Aaron bought a townhouse closer to the children's schools. Part of me wanted to be angry about how everything had turned out, but honestly, I couldn't manage it. Aaron Matthews had outplayed me so completely that I felt more impressed than bitter. The man had turned his wife's affair into a $35,000 payday and removed both of us from his life permanently. That takes a special kind of calculated patience. What really got to me was how methodical he'd been. Most betrayed husbands would have confronted their wives immediately, maybe thrown some punches, definitely made a scene. Aaron had hired a professional, documented everything, researched obscure North Carolina laws, and systematically dismantled both our lives through the legal system. I found myself respecting him for it, which was probably the weirdest part of the whole experience. He'd protected his kids from a messy public divorce scandal, ensured his ex-wife couldn't continue the affair that destroyed their marriage, and made sure I paid actual financial consequences for my choices. Professional-level revenge, executed with surgical precision. The fitness industry in Jacksonville was smaller and more gossipy than Tampa's scene. Word of my legal troubles had followed me, which meant starting over at the bottom of the career ladder. I went from training executives and wealthy housewives to working with college kids who paid $30 a session and complained about every exercise. But here's the thing. The humiliation was actually good for me. For the first time in my adult life, I had to confront the fact that my actions had consequences beyond my immediate gratification. I'd spent 32 years believing that being charming and physically attractive would insulate me from any real accountability. Aaron Matthews had taught me otherwise. 3 months into my Jacksonville exile, I got a Facebook message from Diana, just a simple, "How are you doing?" that felt loaded with unspoken complications. I stared at that message for about an hour, remembering 18 months of Saturday mornings that had seemed so exciting at the time. I deleted the message without responding. That might sound cold, but I'd learned something important about myself during those months of legal proceedings and financial stress. I hadn't been in love with Diana Matthews. I'd been in love with the idea of being needed, of being someone's escape from reality, of being the exciting secret in an otherwise ordinary life. Diana hadn't been looking for true love either. She'd been looking for validation, for someone to remind her that she was still sexually desirable, for a temporary escape from the responsibilities of marriage and motherhood. We'd used each other, and when the bill came due, neither of us was willing to pay it together. The real victim in all of this was Aaron, who'd spent 14 years building a life with someone who was capable of systematically betraying him every Saturday for 18 months. The fact that he'd turned that betrayal into a legal victory didn't erase the fundamental cruelty of what we'd done to him. I started going to therapy in Jacksonville, partly because the stress of the lawsuit had given me panic attacks, and partly because I was tired of being the kind of person who destroys other people's families for weekend entertainment. My therapist, a middle-aged woman who looked disturbingly like Diana, helped me understand that I'd been using these affairs to avoid confronting my own fear of real commitment. It's easier to be someone's secret adventure than to build an actual relationship with someone who's available, she pointed out during one of our sessions. Affairs don't require you to be vulnerable or to compromise or to show up consistently. They're all the fun of intimacy without any of the work. She was right. I'd never had a serious relationship that lasted more than 6 months because serious relationships required emotional investment and growth. Affairs were just elaborate masturbation with another person's marriage as collateral damage. Aaron Matthews had forced me to grow up by making my choices expensive, really expensive. Expensive enough that I couldn't just shrug off the consequences and move on to the next married woman looking for excitement. I still work in fitness, but I've made some rules for myself now. No training clients one-on-one unless they're single. No personal relationships with married people, period. No ego-driven decisions that could hurt innocent kids who never asked to have their families blown up. It's been 2 years since the settlement, and I've managed to rebuild my finances and my career. I'm dating a divorced elementary school teacher who knows the whole story and doesn't seem impressed by my abs or my previous lifestyle. It's healthier, more honest, and surprisingly more satisfying than anything I experienced during my days as a homewrecker. Aaron Matthews taught me that every action has a price, and some prices are higher than you think you can afford to pay. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a man is getting thoroughly outmaneuvered by someone smarter than he is. It's humbling in exactly the way that leads to actual wisdom about who you are and what kind of person you want to be.